My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hey, Atlanta. Say hello to Small Business Help from Apple. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like you know to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the vehicle owner's manual for important feature limitations and information.
Your neighborhood just got cooler with Kroger Delivery's refrigerated trucks. Simply order groceries at the same great prices online as in-store, and we'll bring them to you fresh every time. And if that wasn't cool enough, you can now earn 4 times the fuel points after 4 with your digital coupon. Choose a next-day Kroger Delivery time slot for 4 p.m. or later on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Must deliver by February 4th. Restrictions apply. See Kroger.com for details.
Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Pointless Exercise Podcast. It's time to remember this crap with Mike Donahue. Today we are going to be remembering great left fielders and not so great left fielders in Cubs history. Mike, how are you?
Thrilled to be back. It's been a while. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, so we you can go to the archives and you can every Cub team from 1980. 80? Is that when we started? Why do I not remember?
1980. Yeah, I guess it is 80. Yep.
To
2011. 11, yes.
Every season is chronicled. And now we're going to do every position, and we've already done, the only one we've done so far is center fielders. I feel like we did catchers because when we had
Frank
on for the very special look at the 77 Cubs, all he wanted to talk about was catchers.
We've had quite a few digressions, but yeah, we'll probably have Frank back because that's
he's already said when we talk about catchers.
Yes,
he wants
near and dear to his heart.
So we will have him on for that.
That's I'm down with that. The center field discussion was edifying. I mean, I went to bed that night realizing that, like, in the team photo was a guy from 1897, Jimmy Ryan. What was it? Like Jimmy Ryan, Hack Wilson, Dexter Fowler, Andy Pafko, and maybe Rick Monday. It was like a weird hodgepodge of some guys were just there for a while, like Monday. Some guys were like Dexter that played on a World Series and just maximized it, and even though they're just there for 2 years. And then, it was really a stretch to find like a top 5. So hopefully it won't be as challenging when we turn our attention to left field.
The Cubs have Hall of Fame left fielders. So, yeah, this will be much better. Although at the end, if we try to do like a top 5, you're going to run. The list is pretty top heavy, and then it kind of disintegrates.
Well, and I think we should probably preface this all just by having a quick, a reminder, of the context of the left field position, which I find a bit amusing itself because it is being the best left fielder would it's kind of a world's tallest. Which I always got a kick out of Barry Bonds, and this is Barry Bonds is one of the all-time greatest hitters, most productive players. But even long before he blew up and became the stratospheric player, he was always on a trajectory of being a Hall of Fame player. He's a great hitter, base runner, early 30-30 guy. But I used to laugh out in the early 90s that he was obnoxious, whatever. He's kind of a spoiled kid growing up, but like he wanted to be known as the world's greatest left fielder. And it always makes me laugh because he's a great player. But like, honestly, the fact is, Barry, if he was really that great of a left fielder, he'd be a right fielder or a center fielder. Yeah. Guy couldn't even throw out Sid Bream in the 92 National League Championship Series. So, and one last thought, if you actually want to take that discussion seriously, because you can say, well, the best left fielder is still like the 784th best outfielder if you're at least talking defense. I would say Ricky Henderson would be a better left fielder than Barry anyway. So, but it is an odd position that is oftentimes just, where you put the guy that can't do anything. There are certain things right fielders can do that center fielders can't. You think of guys like Clemente and Ichiro. They probably could have played center, but they were better in right. Generally, center fielders are your best outfielders, but oftentimes it could be your right fielder, but no team's left fielder is ever that team's best outfielder. I think that's pretty much agreed upon.
I mean, one of these guys way before our time, the other guy only played for part of the time we were aware. The Red Sox have two pretty good left fielders.
Yaz?
Ted Williams and Yaz. And did they play left because of the monster? Or because neither one of them could play any defense? I don't know.
Was Williams a left fielder? I thought Williams was a right fielder, but I thought Ted
was a left fielder.
Either way, I have heard that Williams was a very disinterested defensive out. I mean, let's face it, Williams is all about hitting. I don't think he was about base running. I don't think he was about bunting. I don't think he was. I mean, well, not hitting, batting, I should say, because he'd take a walk.
I don't know. It's pretty close with Ted. He only, of the 2,151 games he played in the bigs, he only played 1,982 of them in left.
So he was a left fielder.
He played 169 in right. So does that count?
Then I'm way off. Good for you. My bad. I gotta recalibrate that in my own brain. Points stands. I don't know how good of an outfielder. I've heard that he was disinterested. I don't know how good yet. I mean, again, does that make them just because they played left? I mean, they were left fielders, but and I don't mean to diminish. I loved Yastrzemski. He was one of the early sort of titans that we were aware of when we were kids. And I can't believe we haven't made a Hawk Harrelson joke yet. But
Carl won 7 Gold Gloves.
Okay, all right. And you know what? Yeah, all right. So certainly exceptions will abound. And I'm thinking about now with the Green Monster and whatnot. There's you almost have to be a bit of a pool player, like to
Well, that's kind of what
angles a little bit more.
If they're the exception.
Maybe
because
for
of their
Yaz,
fucked up left field, they're like, you know what, we got to put somebody.
Okay.
I mean, Ian Happ would kill himself if he had to play every day in left field. Can you imagine him sliding into the wall 12 times a game?
Well,
they'd have to put airbags on him.
And I know that this guy was not on like the 75, certainly not in the 67 Red Sox, and maybe not 75. But I recall Dwight Evans being considered like a dude who had like a rifle for an arm in right field. So I don't know, but you're right. I mean, Yaz was still playing left in his prime. So I think that, to your point, maybe they put the better outfielder there. I don't know. There's probably a lot that goes into it. Obviously we can allow for nuance, but generally, it's kind of where you hide a guy.
Yeah, I mean, unless sometimes you can't hide him, like Julio Zuleta.
Nah.
Todd Hundley.
Oh, Adam Dunn.
Yeah.
On the other side. Because I will say that he was the only major leaguer that I will ever think of who I can recall ever seeing not catch more than one fly ball, kind of hit right to him. On more than one occasion, I would just see him not catch a ball, which, you just don't see that for most outfielders.
The Reds tried to hide Yonder Alonso out there, and Tony Campana ended up with his only career home run as a result.
Right. Yeah. Well, if you're, I mean, you could really be common. That's the thing. You're already sort of a dubious, maybe defensive player, and you're there. So a lot of polarity.
I mean, I think we know, though, the Cubs, They put Dave Kingman in because he's such a great outfielder. That's why he played left.
That's when I say a cue to Dave Kingman's Wikipedia photo. Or it's like looks like some last known photo of some dude trying to could not be more disinterested in playing the outfield. Yeah, Kingman was a left fielder, of course. Kevin Kingman was drafted, I think, possibly as a pitcher. He was just a super freak athlete because, he was 6'8", and he was also a basketball player. But
well, see, I late in his life, I became friends with former NIU basketball coach John McDougal. And as we were talking, he told me that he coached Dave Kingman in junior high basketball. And he said, I goes, I got to tell you, I always did my best to like the kids who played for me. I could not pull that off with Dave Kingman. Even as a 7th grader, he was such a prick. The John didn't like him. Yeah. He also played basketball at Evansville. And I asked John, not
the
Dave.
university, John, he's a Purple Ace.
And I asked him if he got to wear the short sleeve uniforms, and he said no. He said I was there long enough ago that we actually had tank tops. Because I remember when Marty Simmons transferred there from Indiana.
Oh, wow!
They had but when we played, that's like what the girls' basketball team wore. They wore like short sleeve shirts. Evansville was wearing short sleeve basketball.
That's hilarious. Would McDougal have played with Jerry Sloan? Yeah.
I don't know. He went to Evansville?
Yeah. Jerry was a Purple Ace. Supposedly, Evansville has one of those tragic stories like the Marshall football team.
Yeah.
And one of the alternate histories is that a young Jerry Sloan, I guess it was in the 70s, supposedly would have been their basketball coach, and decided not to do it. Something like that. So, how's that for a non sequitur?
Yep, that's good. All right, so I spoiled this. I already asked you right before we started if you knew who the very first left fielder in the Chicago.
I do now.
I don't even know how we would classify it because they weren't in the National League yet, and they weren't the Cubs.
What year?
1876. They were the White Stockings. 1876.
Yeah.
The first left fielder for the Cubs. This guy, amazing that this guy accomplished all of this in his life. He was a senator from the state of Ohio. He was the first American to orbit the Earth, and he was the first left fielder for the Chicago White Stockings. John Glenn. Might not. Now that I think about it, it might not be the same John Glenn.
Who 120 years later flew into space again.
He was born in 1850. Does that sound right for the astronaut? He would have been he would have been 113 when he orbited.
He was feeling pretty. The Honorable Senator Glenn was feeling pretty old towards the end.
It says here he died in 1870. No, he died in 1888. He was only 38.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it typhoid? No, so I guess it can't be the same John Glenn then.
He hit 304 with a 333 on base and a 351 slug. He hit one homer in his career, and it wasn't that year. John Glenn. Probably not going to put him on the list of great Cub left fielders.
Yes. Well, I was wondering, are we signifying him because he's the first ever, or is he the first of the ones we're going to go through? In which case, let me charge my phone.
No, he's just the first ever. Yeah, we're also not going to talk. How about this? In 1878, Cap Anson played left field for the Cubs.
Yeah. Probably because there were Negroes sitting in the stands down the left field line, and Cap had to have a safe heart. Funny thing, real quick. This is going to sound crazy. Left field. The position. So I'm going to try to, this might be half bullshit, half apocryphal. So I'm going to throw it out there anyway, but it might as well bring it out in this particular podcast. Cubs moved into Wrigley Field in 14 or 16. But prior to that, they played at West Side Grounds, which was kind of near where the present day University of Illinois, Chicago is, not too far from St. Ignatius. Polk and Wolcott would be the intersection, near Southwest Side. Anyway, supposedly, this is where it sounds absolute fucking apocryphal. The expression coming out of left field, to signify that someone is just talking out of their ass or crazy, has an etymology that dates to West Side grounds where the Cubs played one World Series in 07-08, because that ballpark where they played at abutted a mental asylum that happened to be beyond the left field wall. So now I will say that the Cubs were not playing in West Side grounds in 1876. They would have moved in probably 1880s or 90s. But anyway, relevant to the topic that if it's true, and I'm willing to concede that it might absolutely not be, but I've heard it more than one occasion, that's where the etymology for that expression comes from.
For as storied as the Cubs franchise is, they've had some really good left fielders. They haven't had very many left fielders who it's not as extreme as center, but who kept the position for a long time. But the first guy to nail it down was from 1879 to 1886 was, of course, your favorite player, Abner Dalrymple. And Abner had three war seasons in the 1880s. Abner was getting it done.
Hell yeah. Did Abner have a mustache like everybody else back then?
You had to, right? Even the women had mustaches in the 1880s.
He did, yeah.
The next guy to have a nice string of seasons was Walt Wilmot from 1891 to 1895. But then when the Cubs decided to get serious, they decided to have they play a guy named Jimmy in left field.
Not Jimmy Ryan, our beloved center fielder from around the same time.
Take a look at 1898 and 1899.
Oh, I see. With a 4.3 WAR. Look at that.
So the first three Cub players and left fielders to have WARs of better than 4: Jimmy Ryan, 1898, Jimmy Slagle, 1902, and Jimmy Sheckard, 1911.
It's Jimmy's
like the Seinfeld episode. Jimmy's getting excited.
They refer to themselves in the third person.
This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
This episode is brought to you by Intuit TurboTax. Didn't file with TurboTax last year? That's in the past. Now, Taxes is getting the TurboTax app and filing your own taxes for free if you didn't file with them last year. File by February 18th. All tax forms, all 100% free. Now, this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. New filers and filers who didn't use TurboTax last year only must start and file your own taxes in-app by February 18th. Excludes TurboTax Live. Full terms at TurboTax.com.
So
Sheckard played on the 3 World Series teams in a row.
Yes.
6, 7, and 8, and 10.
One thing I just want to point out to the absolute versatility of our friend Jimmy Ryan, who has already been discussed, believe it or not, a pre-20th century player, because he actually ended up being in our top 5 center fielders. But in that whole period between basically 1890s, he was their leading center fielder, left fielder, and right fielder, according to Baseball Reference, at various seasons. Spent some time each. So
Jimmy was getting it.
What a guy. So Sheckard, see, that's one of the few Tinkers to Evers Chance era Cubs I've never heard of. Of course, he's a left fielder. We're not talking Wildfire Schulte.
Well, now I'm glad you brought up Wildfire. Because do you know how he got his nickname?
I do not.
He set the Cubs' original baseball stadium on fire. No, he didn't do that. He got his nickname because he had the hots for an actress named Lillian Russell. And he and some of his teammates with the Cubs, were they the Cubs by then? Yeah, they were the Cubs by the time he was there.
Yeah, by then, yeah.
Went to see her in a play named Wildfire.
Is that right?
And he had racehorses. And he named one of his racehorses Wildfire.
All
And
right.
the Chicago newspaper guys found out and started calling him Wildfire
I love
Schulte.
it. That's
Now,
hilarious.
the thing I read didn't get into it, but there's a good chance that Frank has got carnal knowledge of Lillian Russell, because Lillian
that's a well-earned nickname.
Lillian married 4 times, had several affairs, got knocked up before, was unmarried, was a single mom back in the early 1900s, which was, yeah.
So Frank, all right, I like that. That works. That's three. It probably was, and that's a well-earned nickname then too, because it wasn't just like he was getting rigged. He was just some weirdo delusional that brought flowers down to like the State Lake Theater or whatever, and and then got snubbed.
Yeah.
No, he actually made moves, got in, and
I would guess the way it really happened is right. Frank and some of the guys went to see Lillian in a play. Frank took Lillian out, told the guys, and they started calling him Wildfire. And then the racehorse thing was reverse engineered. But
that
that's
might
why
work.
he got called
And I
Wildfire.
think, but I think it's more than credible that he did. The kid probably did have some carnal knowledge when you kind of look at the whole thing. Good for you, Frank Schulte.
The other thing he's known for, he stole home 22 times in his career.
Love it. So he and Ty Cobb, big abductors of home.
Now, he only played left for 2 years for the Cubs, 14 and 15, but he was replaced by a guy with an unfortunate name, Les Man.
Oh, man. Oh, that's especially in those days. Especially in those days, right? Yeah. Oh, your daddy didn't think much of you.
And then this is odd. A guy who later would pitch for the Cubs. I didn't know Dave Robertson was a two-way player. He played left field in 1920, and then in 22 he pitched for the Cubs. 1920.
Just like John Glenn, he reappears. Yeah.
How did he do it? 1921, a guy named Turner Barber. Kind of a cool name.
Very 1921 name.
And then the Cubs had a hack in 22 and 23. But it wasn't Hack Wilson, it was Hack Miller.
Oh, it was not Hack Wilson, nor was it Stan Hack.
Yeah. Denver Grigsby, 1924. Art John, 1925. But from 1926 to 1933, you get to one of the best left fielders in baseball.
Hell yeah.
Not just Cubs history, baseball history.
Yeah. I can see my dad smiling down. This player much too before my dad's time. So even this is now secondhand because my grandfather apparently a big fan of this guy.
Baseball Hall of Famer, Riggs Stevenson.
Dude could hit.
What do you think his real name was?
Oh boy. Was it Charlie?
His name was Jackson Riggs Stevenson. They went by Riggs. Okay. But his nickname was Old Hoss.
Is he from the South? That sounds like a Southern thing.
He's from Akron, Alabama.
Damn.
And he retired to Tuscaloosa.
Okay. 32 point, not a Hall of Famer though, actually. You were incorrect there.
I was incorrect. Well, he should be. I'm going to make it my life's work.
32.7 more. He's not even in the Harold Baines Hall of Fame, but he'd be one of those guys that even 2 generations removed, I would hear about Stevenson and Kai Kyler and Hack Wilson and Stan Hack eventually from those are those great Cubs teams that we've talked about.
His career batting average was only .336.
Yeah.
And how about this? He played 9 years for the Cubs and 5 years for the Indians. His career batting average for the Cubs, .336. His career batting average for the Indians, .337.
Ooh.
Look at that. Almost consistency.
Almost a Stan Musial type thing.
He played for 14 years. He hit 300 or better the first 13 seasons. He only hit .216 his last year with the Cubs. Led the league in doubles in 1927 with 46. He had an OPS of over 1,000 in 1929 on a World Series team. Led the league in intentional walks. They were afraid of Riggs. Either that or the guy behind him sucked.
He was on another World Series team where he had a lower OPS. He had 826, but he finished 5th in MVP voting in 32, the year of Bruce called shot.
Yeah, in the 29 World Series against the A's, he hit .316. And in that Yankees World Series, he hit .444.
Man. All right. Well, I think we have a leader in the clubhouse. Move over, Wildfire. No, wait, it wasn't Wildfire. It was I don't know who.
It was
Yeah,
probably
yeah,
Jimmy Sheckard.
yeah.
He had
From
been the
the
previous
early.
best.
All right. So basically, if you just show up and you can just, if you're an everyday left fielder on a perennial pennant contender, that gets you in so far because the Cubs history, of course, we have a couple different eras of success. It sounds, unlikely by today's standards, but there's Sheckard on those teams that win pennants 06, 07, 08, 1910, and then a little bit of a gap. And then the Renaissance with Bill Veeck Sr. leading it. And there's Riggs, just installed in left, going to World Series every 3 years.
All right, now if Riggs wasn't a Hall of Famer, the guy who replaced him in left field was.
Oh.
The next year,
Okay.
the Cubs traded for Chuck Klein.
So Hall of Famer, but not because of his work with the Cubs. And he'll be the first of a few, by the way, but yes.
I don't
know. Chuck Klein, who...
3 years with the Cubs, he had 297 with 336 on base with 497.
Yeah.
Slight. That probably got him in the Hall.
Just a historical anecdote. Chuck Klein, it would be kind of a poster boy of a guy that absolutely benefited from favorable conditions in his ballpark, which apparently was the Baker Bowl. I guess they had an obnoxiously short porch and right.
Oh.
And the Phillies were terrible, but Chuck Klein, I think, he was the last something, I thought, 1930 is the year that the entire National League hit 300. But like Chuck Klein had some inflated numbers. And so, of course, by the time he shows up to the Cubs.
So he gets traded to the Cubs. Let's see, who did he get traded for? He got traded for I have a feeling the Phillies needed some money. He got traded to the Cubs for Harvey Hendrick, Ted Kleinhaus, Mark Koenig, and $65,000, which in 1933 was like
it
was like $1 billion. And here were his stats his last year with the Phillies.
Right, I'm looking at it. Yeah. Oh my God!
This is he was 28 years old. He led the National League in hits with 223, doubles with 44, homers with 28, RBIs with 120. So let's see. So he won the Triple Crown. Because he won the batting title at 368, he slugged 422. His on base was 422. He slugged 602. His OPS was 1,025. He led the league in OPS plus, but they didn't know what that was, and in total bases. And he was the runner-up MVP.
Yeah, that's the other thing I noticed. How does all that black ink, all those bold stats left to right? And he's not the MVP in 33.
The MVP was
Carl Hubble.
Carl Hubble.
It just popped in my head. This is an incredible stat that I should say, that we've come across, because that was the season after which he was. What the hell happened to Chuck Klein? Like, was he banging? Is he like the Dave Martinez? Like, but he was the superstar. Like, there's nobody else better in Philly. So what did he do? You're right. Philly must have been, but that is so vulgar. You can't be that cash strapped to do that. Well, oh my God.
He played for the Cubs 34-35 in the beginning of 36, and then he got traded back to the Phillies.
I see that. Yeah.
For Ethan Allen, furniture maker, and Kurt Davis.
Okay.
And then he never could quite recapture. He was a productive player for the Cubs.
He was. I might be.
He was an all-star in 34. He had 301.
Yeah.
But they probably thought they were getting like, oh, this guy's going to hit,
Right. Well, maybe it was the Park effect then too, right? Like maybe that's. And Philly had a lot. I mean, he was a good player, obviously. And Philly had
he
very
led
few.
In playing in Philly, he led the league in home runs 4 out of 5 years. He led the National League in slugging 3 consecutive seasons. He did slug 510 for the Cubs his first year there.
Also, I see that he was the MVP in 32, so it was like they didn't want to give it to him again, which was stupid. Yeah, that's an incredible season.
He was 4th in 30, 2nd in 31, 1st in 32, and then 2nd again in 33. And
that's an interesting career.
Yeah, he played for another 11 seasons.
Yeah,
and he never shows up on the MVP roster again.
No, and there's no more bold. Nope. He doesn't lead the league in anything. Interesting. Wow. I'd like to learn more about that someday. I'll have to head down to my local library. Huh.
Um,
Wow. Chuck Klein. All right. Chuck Klein's in the accounted for.
So 35, Chuck's gone. You got a hand, or he's still there, I think, but not playing. Yeah, he moved to right field. So the Cubs left fielder was Augie. Is it Galan?
Yep, I believe so.
Galan.
Yeah.
Augie Galan. And Augie had a big year. Let's see. What year was this? I'm like looking over here. 35.
Well, he was there for 4 out of 5 years. The furniture maker popped in between.
Yes. Augie moved to right for 1 year, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, so Augie had a nice little run.
Oh, not after Riggs Stevenson. Riggs
No.
set the mold. We're headed towards, even by left field standards, some mediocrity. Names we recognize, though.
Okay, so Augie has a
Like in
couple of
40s.
notable firsts in Major League history. He switched
Really?
In 1937, he became the first player in Major League history to homer from both sides of the plate in the same game.
Interesting.
But this is even more interesting, what he did in 1935. He was the first player to have as many as 649 plate appearances without hitting into a double play.
Oh,
But he did hit into a triple play.
wow.
Yes. In 1941,
Interesting.
the Cubs traded him to the Dodgers on August 26th for Mace Brown.
Yeah, who gave up the pitch to Gabby Hartnett in
Yes.
38, the homer of the Glowman.
Yep, Mace never pitched for the Cubs. Must have said, fuck it, I'm not going to pitch for you guys.
Well, and I wonder if Augie Galan would have played in that 41 World Series for the Dodgers against the Yankees, but I digress. So he was a decent player then, actually. It's a name that I've heard of.
Yeah.
It like makes me think of my dad because I know now we're getting to the era where both of our dads are like starting to. You seeing like Lou Novikov up
Yep.
there and Dom D'Alessandro.
Mace. So I had to figure out why Mace never pitched for the Cubs. I didn't find that answer, but they did have a thing about the homer and the Glowman. Mace said he has always believed that Gabby did hit it into the seats. You know, there was a dispute. The Pirates claimed that it wasn't really that it didn't go out. It was just too dark. That it bounced. The umps thought
did it bounce onto the field?
Umps
from
thought
the
it hit
seats?
in the bleachers and bounced onto the field. The
I never heard
Pirates
that
always
before.
claimed that it hit the wall, but Mace said he hit it too hard. It was a home run. Mace also said it was too dark. There's no way Gabby saw it. He must have hit it by sound, which was pretty funny.
I like that. That's great. Good stuff.
So Augie's he's the left fielder in 35, and then from 37 to 39.
So more pennant winners, 35, they lose to the Tigers. 38, they lose again to the Yankees. So these are all obviously good players that just happen to be in left field.
Augie got 2 at-bats in the 41 World Series. Didn't get a hit.
Okay. All right.
He also got 2 at-bats in the 38 World Series with the Cubs and didn't get a hit.
Even though he was their everyday left fielder.
Yeah, maybe it broke his leg. He did play 6. He played in 6 games in the 35 World Series.
Yeah, that was a 6-game series.
Hit
Played
160.
another game. Ooh, Augie.
Those were his only 4. He hit 138 in the World Series, in 3 World Series.
Augie Ojeda hit better than that against the Cubs in the 2007 wild card.
Yeah, 40 to 41, and then again to 44. Dom D'Alessandro was the left fielder. 42 and 43, It was Lou, the Mad Russian Novikov.
Yep.
And then 1945, the left fielder was Peanuts Lowry.
Yes, Peanuts Lowry, who I vaguely remember as a Cubs coach in the late 70s. Around the same time, we also had Cookie Rojas and Herman Franks. I think the GM Salty Saltwell was the old commissioner, concessions guy. I think, thinking about food.
Peanuts' main contribution to the Cubs was most likely that on June 15th, 1949, he and Harry the Hat Walker, former Cardinal, were traded to the Reds for Frank Baumholtz and Hank Sauer.
Okay. Hey, good trade for the Cubs in 54. when Sauer won. Was it 54 or 52 when Sauer won the MVP? Maybe it was 52.
I think it was 52.
Yeah, it's 52 probably. However, Sauer. No, I don't know. See, because you're seeing Ralph Kiner in there. And you mentioned Baumholtz, and this is something Fork would have heard from his dad, but like, my dad was not a Ralph Kiner fan for some reason, even though he was like, he had like a 50 home run hitter for Pittsburgh. And it was mostly because I guess he was a terrible outfielder. So my dad had his nose out of joint about it because by the time he came to the Cubs, he wasn't that old. I looked it up.
He had a bad back, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I think the Pirates dumped him because he had a bad back.
He still hit for he still hit for the Cubs, but like my dad tells a story.
Because he got to the Cubs in the prime PK Wrigley era, where they were just taking like
right. Yes,
it was a name.
Yeah, he was not.
Didn't matter. He couldn't play. He was a name.
Exactly. Like Jimmy Fox. I think Jimmy Fox would make an appearance. And stagger his alcoholic ass. Like, that speaks more to like the war torn era and guys getting, kind of getting being given a chance. But lost my train of thought as far as Kiner. So my dad. I remember he always told me the story. He was at a game, sitting where like my seats are now. You know where those are, like on the left field line, roughly. And then a ball went into the corner, and you can't see what goes on sometimes in that corner. It kind of was playing left field, and then all he saw was all of a sudden the ball just dribbles out like a throw comes out. Like it was just like he had no arm, he had no range. He could hit. So, but the tie together is that you had Kiner in one corner, which would be left or right. I'm not really sure, but Sauer, who's not known for his defense, although Sauer did win MVP, and that it was, you mentioned Baumholz, but he was generally considered the center fielder. And so the joke was that like Baumholz lost like 60 pounds that year, or those years that he was playing between Sauer and Kiner in the corners because they hardly moved. Sauer could hit.
So before I don't know if we're going to get back to, we will get back to Sauer in a minute. But so Peanuts actually was the primary left fielder in 45 and in 48. Did you see who the primary left fielder in 1947 was?
Yeah, Phil Buck.
So it's Phil Cavaretta, 2 years removed from his MVP season as a first baseman. And I was like, why? And so I looked it up. Like, why wasn't he just playing first base? And it's because if you get a chance to play Eddie Waitkus at first base every day, you're not. I mean, Eddie, 2 homers and 35 RBIs in 130 games. So you got to do it.
Eddie Waitkus' claim to fame, is he's the inspiration for the Natural because he got shot by a spurred lover in Chicago.
Very handsome. People should look up Eddie as Baseball Reference picture.
He was a member of the Phillies, but he was in Chicago playing the Cubs. He got shot. Not to be confused with Bill Jurgis, shortstop on the 29 and 32 Cubs, who was also shot. And there's something was going on in the 30s and 40s, apparently. Major League Baseball players were very vulnerable.
Something was going on.
Scoring levels. But Eddie Waitkus, he's kind of best known as supposedly a little bit of the inspiration for that part of the Natural.
Phil did play quite a bit of outfield over his career.
Yeah, I stumbled across Cavaretta earlier this week for just doing a different thing, and apparently he was a bit of a Fred McGriff at first, I guess, when he was not a great first baseman. So he can hit enough, and they just try to.
I don't know. I always pictured Phil as he's 5'11", 175.
Wow,
he's not exactly Anthony. Anthony Rizzo and him shared a number, but not a body.
Yep, a heritage and a number. Yeah, and a position.
So Sauer plays left field from 49 to 52. He wins the MVP in 52.
It's 52. Okay.
So as a left fielder, he wins the.
Well, Barry Bonds won a bunch of left, but yeah, okay. I mean, it's probably the least represented in the MVP. Maybe I shouldn't say
that. In 52, he led the National League in homers with 37 and RBIs 121. He hit a cool. Oh, he had 270. I thought he had 361, but that was his on base.
Mm-hmm.
For his career, he averaged 33 homers and 101 RBIs in 15 years.
Also had a brother, Ed, that was a Cub. So you had Ed Sauer and Hank Sauer.
So Kiner comes over in 53 and 54 to play left. And he was just kind of okay offensively. He had 50 homers in the 2 years combined.
Yeah. Washed up. But not that old. You're right. Must have been a bad back or something.
If it's, remember it's Mother's Day, so remember to tell your mother happy birthday.
Yeah. And the whole second act is a very malaprop-driven Mets play-by-play announcer.
This is quite a trade that the Cubs got him in. This is a doozy. Pirates traded him with Joe Garagiola, George Metkovic, and Howie Pallette for Bob Addis, Toby Atwell, George Freese, Gene Hermansky, Bob Schultz, Preston Ward, and $150,000.
Don't think I knew that Joe Garagiola was a Cub. Maybe I did and I forgot it. Only for one season, apparently.
Yep.
Huh.
2, 53 and 54.
I see. Okay. Played for Bill Cavaretta, player manager. But we're not talking about catchers today. We'll come back to Joe.
That's a lot of guys in a trade. Think of the paperwork.
It was, right. A lot of catch being handed back and forth, too, it seems like then.
So Hank's last year as a left fielder is 55. In 56,
yeah,
the Cubs have a Hall of Famer play left field.
Their second Hall of Famer in 3 years.
Former Giants
a Hall of Famer.
Monty Irvin played the final year of his career for the Cubs and was good.
Yeah, I see that.
Played 111 games, 271, 346, 460. 15 homers and 50 RBIs and 339 at-bats.
You know, a lot of people look at the 50s as like the first real decade of malaise, and I say we had 2 left fielders, 2 Hall of Famers in left field. Kiner and Monty Irvin. And an MVP in left.
Monty played 1 year and said, fuck this.
That's probably, actually, there might be some sort of relationship there, like how futile your team is if all your high points maybe come out of left field. I don't know. I mean, not that having an end of his career, Monty Irvin is a high point, but he did have a 2.4 WAR.
Do you know how the Cubs got Monty?
I do not.
They won him in a card game. No, he was drafted by the Cubs from the Giants in the Rule 5 draft, which clearly doesn't work the way it works now. But, I mean...
No, because Monty Irvin was...
You can't get a 37-year-old... Actually, you could probably get Frank Schwindel in the Rule 5 draft now. So, yeah, you could get a 37.
And hey, like, here's the thing. Monty Irvin, and I'm just looking at it now. Now, you see he's a Hall of Famer, even though he only has a 32.1 WAR, because he didn't come over to the big leagues till he was age 30. So, really special. So,
and he's
to put up a 32 WAR beginning at the age of 30, everyone knew who he was, is my point. So, like, for him to come across, well, of course, by the Rule 5, though, he then put in a good decade in the bigs, I guess, huh? Is that it? All right.
And Monty was inducted by the Negro League Committee.
Okay. I'm sure he was deserving, because if you put up that kind of a WAR starting at age 30, you know. I mean, I know they have Negro League numbers in there. I know it's also could be a little bit piecemeal. I mean, you can see some black ink and stuff, but yeah. And I think he was kind of considered one of the top Negro Leaguers at the time that they started to disband.
Good old number 39.
Yep.
So Monty's like, fuck this. I'm not playing for you again. And so 1957, the Cubs left fielder is Lee Walls. Not Jungle Jim, just Lee.
Right.
He played 65 games in left, but Chuck Tanner played 60.
Oh, there you go.
He played a lot of guys in left field. So then in 58 and 59, Moose Morin.
Best known for making a shoestring grab, which there's footage of. Stupid Jack Brickhouse is on it to help save.
Come on, Moose. Or doesn't he yell at her? Attaboy, Moose.
Yes, you got it, Moose. Just saved Don Cardwell's no-hitter, which he threw in his Cubs debut in 1960, I want to say. So Morin was the everyday left fielder in 58, 59, but he was still, pretty sure you're still on the team the next year. But not the left fielder. Another Hall of Famer, I think.
Yes.
Be a Veterans Hall of Famer if he was, I bet. Oh, no, 64.3 WAR.
No, but it was the Veterans Committee.
But that's a pretty good WAR.
Itchy Rashburn, as my dad used to call him. Richie Ashburn. Had a great year had a great year for the Cubs in 1960. And they rewarded him. I guess he did play for him in 61, and then in 62 they sold him to the Mets.
Ooh,
he finished his career on the worst team in baseball history.
Interesting career, though. He was an everyday player till he really quit. You know, isn't that kind of fun for the most part? I mean, I know 109 games in his penultimate season, but
so his 1 year with his first year with the Cubs, 1960, because he played mostly center field in 61 at 34. That shows you how good the Cubs center fielders were. In his first year with the Cubs at 33, he led the league in walks and on base. He walked 116 times.
Holy cow!
Struck out.
He wasn't that old either.
No,
33 isn't that old. I mean, he was past his prime, but
he was acquired. The Cubs traded John Buzzhart, Alvin Dark, and Jim Woods for him. And this is interesting to me. So this is January 11th, 1960. In 1962, Alvin Dark managed the Giants to the pennant.
Oh, wow.
He retired after the 60 season. Immediately managed the Giants. In his second year, he won a pennant.
Wow. Also managed the A's to a championship in 74. Replacing Dick Williams.
So Richie moved to center in 1961, and that cleared the way in left field.
And I'm sorry to say, Riggs Stevenson, it's probably time for you to move over.
Yes, for easily the greatest left fielder in Cubs history.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to end. Yeah, not to rob the drama out of the proceedings, but I'm fairly confident Billy's there to stay.
Yeah. So Billy Williams, who would play left field from 61 to 64, then he would go play right field for 2 years, just because he wanted to prove that I could play right. I'm good enough to play right if they need me. I'm going back to left.
Dude, the guy rocked a 7.7 WAR playing right field in 65, right?
You kind of wonder why they ever moved him back.
Yeah, I wonder.
Why did they move him back?
I don't know, because Jim Hickman didn't sound like he'd be that. I mean, he's a great hitter. He's four cutters, great clutch hitter. They never really had any sort of consistent right fielders all that time, which is interesting to me. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
He had to move so that Ted Savage could get the most games in right field in 1967, and then Lou Johnson.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so but in the 2 years when Billy was moonlighting in right field, Jimmy Stewart played left field in 1965.
Well, Mr. Potter.
And in 1966, the guy who got the most starts in left field was a guy named Byron Brown, and he led the league in one category that year. What do you think he led the league in?
Well, the fact that he's got a .1 WAR makes me wonder: is it errors?
Strikeouts. He struck out 143 times, which in 1966 was like striking out 340 times.
Right. That's almost like he should have been shunned by society.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm sure PK didn't like him. He's black.
Yep. Yeah. That was it for him. Put Billy back out and left for the DeRocher era run. Billy in his prime. Now he's one of the best players in the game, and he's our left fielder.
Byron Brown struck out 143 times in 419 at bats. Woo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He did it 16 homers and 51 RBIs. He was
amazing. So many strikeouts back then. That had to be close to him. He must have been in the news. He must have been approached because wasn't Bobby Bonds the first person? Didn't Bobby Bonds set the modern day strike? I don't think strikeout records as hitters are something people kept track of because people didn't strike out a lot. But I feel like Bobby was the first days, something like that, or in a single season. I mean, but geez, I feel like 143 puts you in the team photo in
That's a lot.
1966.
So he got traded. The Cubs traded him to the Astros for Aaron Pointer, the Pointer sisters.
Pointer sisters, right?
Pointer sister. He's the Pointer brother. Aaron.
But then, how about this? Dance.
How about the trade he was involved in on October 7th, 1969? He was traded by the Cardinals with Curt Flood, Joe Horner, and Tim McCarver to the Phillies for Dick Allen, Jerry Johnson, and Cookie Rojas. Curt Flood refused to report to his new team, and so the Cardinals sent Willie Montañez and Jim Browning to the Phillies to complete the trade.
So, a little part of history there, Byron Brown. Nice little footnote. Glad we stumbled across that. 143 strikeouts and part of the part of a trade that, obviously really sort of ended up having a bit of a cascading effect on the whole landscape. So good for you, Byron.
Yeah. He's just as important to free agency as Curt Flood. Tangentially, maybe. Let's see. Is he still alive? Maybe he's telling his kids that. Yes, still alive. He's 81. Lives in St. Joseph, Missouri.
Good job, Byron.
Yeah. So Billy plays left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's the primary left fielder for 11 seasons. And
that's a run. Rick Stevenson, by comparison, was only there for 8. Yeah. And that's Jimmy Sheckard, 7.
Yeah, Riggs is the second most.
And so, by quantity, but really even by quality, whatever, by any measure, Billy's the guy. But plenty of other people in that position. So
Billy, Rookie of the Year in 1961.
That's right.
Johnny Bench stole the MVP from him in twice.
Twice. 70 and 72. Yeah.
Should have given him one of the two.
Ain't that some shit? That's what Fork would say, Billy would say.
Won the batting title in 72.
And God, kind of an old man by then, right? In 72. So.
Yeah, 34.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about it before, how he and Sano were really the they carried those DeRocher teams. Banks was a little bit along for the ride.
He had the consecutive game streak that Steve Garvey supposedly broke.
Exactly right.
He led the league. This is funny that he led the league in games played, even though he played every game from 1965 through 1970.
Yeah.
He did not lead the league in games played in 1967 because he only played in 162.
Right.
So basically, he played in 164 in 65. So clearly, somebody had a suspended game that was declared a tie, and then Billy technically didn't lead the league in games played, even though he played in every game.
Coincidentally, you'd think that back then, I don't know how that would check out, but you notice too, he also played in 162 games in 64 and didn't lead the league, and that the year before that he had 161, which was good enough to lead the league in 1970, just not in 63. I mean, the guy almost went like an entire 10 years playing 162 games a year. Basically, on average, he did, because he had a few 163s himself and 164 in the 65 season.
Yeah, it was 159, 161, 162, 164, 162, 162, 163, 163, 161, 157, and then sloughed off in 72 and only played in 150. Then played in 156 and 73.
Yeah. I think one of his nicknames, the Iron. No, that was Lou Gehrig. Didn't he have some? No, just sweet singing. As a kid, I thought I read some biography that had Iron something, but Lou Gehrig was the Iron Horse.
Old Iron Pants.
Oh. Yeah.
No, that wouldn't be a good. It wouldn't be a good name.
Good old Billy. Glad he's still amongst us
old
too.
Iron Pants.
No, I don't know. Billy shipped off to Oakland. I don't know if did he get in the World Series? I think he got there too late. 70. Nah, he did. Too bad. Probably played in the playoffs at least, though. 75. Yeah.
Played for the pennant against the Red Sox. They lost.
Couldn't get a hit.
Did not
Poor
get a
Billy. He was 37. That's just way too late.
Got as many hits in the postseason as Ernie and Ron.
Yeah, he did, as it turns out. At least he got to play.
Yep. Got to wear those ridiculous A's uniforms, which is good.
Yeah. Got to play for the jerk-off Charlie Finley.
The Cubs' first real left field Hall of Famer.
Oh, yeah, because Riggs isn't. And you're right. And even though we had, a 7-year run in the 50s where we had 3 Hall of Famers in Ashburn, Irvin, and actually you can say including Billy Williams' first year, the Cubs had an 8-year run in the 50s, late 50s, where they had 4 different Hall of Famers that were their everyday left fielder. So, but you're right. Billy's the only real Hall of Famer.
They shipped him off to Oakland to clear left field for Jerry Morales, so that Jerry could put up a negative .4 WAR that year. And then for 3 seasons, Jose Cardinal was the Cubs left fielder.
Fan favorite.
Eddie Vedder's favorite player, right?
Michelle Obama's too.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
In 75, though, other notables to play left field, Champ Summers. Pete LeCoq.
Yeah, Champ Summers. Ooh, wow. How about that? Peter Marshall's son.
And in 76, Larry Bittner, Champ Summers.
2 I's, 2 T's.
Pete LeCoq, Rick Monday.
Okay. Monday's about God anyway, even though he's really the center fielder.
So 3 years of fan favorite Jose Cardinal, and followed up by 3 years of not fan favorite Dave Kingman.
Quite the opposite. That's a nice little nifty comparison. In spite of the fact that sandwiched in between those in the middle of those 3 years is a year in which oddly Kingman was rather glorified, even though I think like writers and stuff still lose a dick. But he was very popular in '79 because he stayed healthy, and it was he just had one of those seasons. 48 homers was it? I guess. Of course he only had a 4.1 WAR. I mean, the guy sucked. That's why there's a reason that in the pre-steroid era he would have been the only 400 home run hitter to never make Hall of Fame, and nobody was rushing to ever have make that argument. But his '79 season, you could certainly say be one of the greatest individual seasons by a left fielder. Maybe not. I mean, the 4.1 WAR stands out.
48 homers, 115 RBIs, led the league in slugging and OPS.
Yeah, well, Rick Stevenson had a higher WAR and
OPS. He was an All-Star 3 times in his career, twice with the Cubs.
So he would have been in '79 because of the season he was having, and then he would have been voted in, I bet, in '80. And then he probably told everyone to fuck off and went fishing instead or something.
Yeah. He only played 81 games in '80. So he probably did.
Well, I think that's the whole fun. It'd be fun to do a deep dive on the, because I don't know how local he is. He went to Prospect, but I think he grew up in Oregon. Whatever. And he went to college in Southern Cal, I think. But like that 3-year run, it is kind of interesting because he was
first. Went to Harper College first.
Oh, that's true. Did he?
Then
really?
to USC.
Did he?
A lot of guys transfer from Harper to USC, like Dave Kingman did.
Wait a second, you're shitting me, right?
No.
He did. Holy shit, William Randy Harper College, Palatine, Illinois. I would not have even guessed that Harper existed in the '60s or even have a baseball. There was nothing. I mean, obviously Prospect was out here, but like there wasn't much out here.
Most of the community colleges in Illinois started in between 1964 and 1968.
Is that right?
The exception was Joliet, which was Joliet Junior College still.
Yeah.
They've been around for 100 years. They were their own thing first and became a community college as part of the Community College Act.
Got it.
And then
so that's all.
Triton College at one point had Kirby Puckett and Lance Johnson playing in the same outfield.
We mentioned that. You mentioned that very thing on a previous. You edified me on that, which still cracks me up. And I was recently there like 3 years ago for a COVID test and saw that the beautiful Kirby Puckett Stadium. So, but my point is, like with Kingman, was like he was reviled when everyone knew he was an asshole, but he was glorified because he was hitting dogs, right? So like we loved him. We were 7-year-old kids, right? We didn't know he was an asshole. But I think everyone loved him that year because, like, it was just he's putting on a show, and he
Yeah.
wasn't just hitting 48 homers; he was hitting balls up Kenmore Avenue. So, and then he went right back. Things started going right, and I think it was the next year when everyone saw what an asshole he was because they have Dave Kingman Day. That's when he was out on his boat on Lake Michigan when he was all kind. I think all kinds of shit went down in '80. It's just funny how quickly it turned, but it was always meant to be because anyone that had been around the game could have told that Dave Kingman. You said your guy McDougal going back since he was a seventh grader that he was an asshole. It was just covered up by that '79 season for a lot of us.
Dave Kingman was a second round draft pick in 1967 out of high school, a first round pick in 1968. That would have been at Harper.
Wow.
And then the number 1 overall pick in 1970 out of USC. He got drafted by
Was
the
he
Angels, the Orioles, and the Giants.
And then the Giants. Was he drafted as a pitcher or third baseman? Pitcher, I think. And then he hurt himself, and then they try to make a third base. He was like their opening day third baseman, 71, 72. He was terrible, I guess. I mean, obviously, the guy couldn't even play left. So
yeah, he made his debut in 71 at first base, but in 72 he played 72 and 73. And 74 with the Giants he played third, and in 75 he got some games at third with the Mets.
Probably making a shitload of
Cubs
errors.
signed him as a free agent before the 78 season. And then they traded him for his successor in left field.
Steve Henderson, right? Yeah. And the last thing about Kingman is that one point, because it was only in the first decade of divisional play, so it would not have been a thing earlier. But in 77, he became the first player to play for a team in each of the 4 divisions in 77. Angels, Angels, Cubs, Mets, and Yankees. So.
Yeah, Mets, Padres, Angels.
Oh, Padres.
Yankees.
Yeah, National League West. So
more recent news about Dave Kingman. So NBC,
you mentioned this. His daughter, right?
Son.
She's on a reality show?
Yeah.
A son.
I already talked about this. Yeah. And there's a show on NBC and Peacock. I don't think it's on anymore. It's called Making It. And the first season was hosted by Andy Samberg and Amy Poehler. Second season, apparently, Andy was busy, so it was far superior. It was Amy Poehler and oh crap, why am I blanking on her? Maya Rudolph. And is that right? That's not right. That's Baking It. I'm all confused. This Making It, that was a different show. Amy posts both. The second one, the show that he was on is called Making It, and that is Nick Offerman, Cub fan Nick Offerman, and Amy Poehler.
Oh, that's right.
And the guy who won it that year is Dave Kingman's son. And he talked, it was kind of sad. He talked about, trying to do this to make his dad proud. And so when he won, Dave and his 9th wife, or whatever he's on now, came to the taping, and they had this he awkwardly hugged his son, who actually did build some cool stuff. So.
All right. Well, good for Kingman's kid.
That's right. I got Baking It and Making It confused.
Yeah, I feel like that was not a bad trade for the Cubs because now we're getting into the era. Now we can speak from our own experience and knowledge of these players. Like Steve Henderson was a Met prospect. He may have actually come up with the Reds. So, maybe he was over. He might have been part of the Tom Seaver trade where like Ted Zachary, I don't know, a whole bunch of shit was going around. And I don't know. I don't know. Like he had some hype, Henderson, but I mostly don't have great memories of him.
He got traded for some great players. In June 15, 1977, Steve Henderson was traded with Doug Flynn, Dan Norman, and Pat Zachary for Tom Seaver. 1981, he was traded for Dave Kingman, and in 1982, he was traded for Rich Bordy.
Oh, our guy. Wait, so the Cubs got Bordy? I didn't know that. Oh, nice to know that.
Mariners.
Who'd the Cubs trade Hendo to?
The Mariners.
Steve Henderson. The Mariners. Okay.
Yep.
So just 2 years.
Did you ever play with Dave Henderson, his brother? Oh, wait, they weren't brothers.
Ken Henderson.
Says here his nickname was Stevie Wonder. Is it because it looked like he was blind when he played left?
Well, honestly, like you shared with me off the grid a YouTube game, Cubs
he's
Pirates 81.
In that.
Yeah, he somehow speared a Rick Rhoden line drive, but he looks so ungraceful as he
two
plowed into
panicked
the
catches in
vines.
left field to save the game.
So, yeah.
Oh, his agent.
Good
He had a super agent, one of the best baseball agents ever. A guy with a great name, Dick Moss.
Oh yeah, that was Andre Dawson's agent,
Yep.
right? The guy that he had to
blank
get
check.
the blank check for. Yeah.
Dick Moss.
So Henderson was 81, 82. Yeah, we can almost get to the. I mean, yeah, we're gonna know all these guys going forward, but go ahead.
Oh no! If you got something to say about Steve, say it, because I was moving on to.
I think I'm done with Steve Henderson. Yeah.
All right. So 1983, the guy who got the most games in left field was Leon Durham. But
Sure.
It was a cast of thousands in left field that year. Here are the guys who played left field for the Cubs: Leon Durham, Gary Woods, Jay Johnstone, Scott Thompson, Thad Bosley, Jerry Morales, Bill Buckner, Wayne Nordhagen.
Buckner and left. Wayne Nordhagen. Okay.
Mel Hall.
Sure.
Martinez. What Martinez would that be?
Carmelo, maybe. Probably.
Oh, I bet you're right.
You got
Carmelo, Harry singing.
Yeah. He was a September call, got a homer in his first official at-bat, but not plate appearance, I want to say. Maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, they don't break it down by. But yeah, it's everybody took a turn and left.
In 83.
And Leon got the most action out there. And he has a 1.2 WAR in left. So, but that would be short-lived because 1984.
Yep.
We gotta look. What was the date of this trade? This is late, right? This is
April 1st.
Training.
April 1st or 2nd. Yeah, and there's no reason for it like that.
March
Brian
27th.
McRae trade in late '95. It wasn't like there was a late start. It was just right. And it's we broke it down pretty good at that because it was like they were going to head into that season with Buckner at first and Durham in left and Mel Hall or so. I don't even know. I can't remember. But like it just changed the paradigm. I think Hall was going to be the center fielder. Moreland was going to be in the left. I can't even sort it out now.
Yeah,
Durham would still stay out there.
Leon would have been in right, and
Buckner at first. But then, but they needed Buckner to get dealt for Eckersley, so maybe that was a separate deal. I think prior to the trade, they were going to go into the season with.
Well, Buckner Eckersley, that didn't happen until the season actually started, right?
Yeah, May 5th or something. Yeah, but Buckner opened the season on the bench. So, but yeah, we got Sarge and quite a celebrity in his first year. Kind of rejuvenated the bleacher bums out there. He was in his 30s, and I don't know if he was ever a great outfielder. I do remember him like hustling his ass off and making a really good catch, like in Game 5 of the playoffs against the Padres. You could still feel it slipping away, but good for you, Sarge. You didn't look graceful, but you ran, 60 yards and caught that fly ball, and we're still barely hanging on. But
it's funny because I don't know because we were too young to. I don't know that he kept getting taken out late in games because he was a bad outfielder or just because he was old and slow.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Fry just wanted more range and left. Not like he was worried that Gary wasn't going to catch the ball if he got to it. They weren't going to get to it. I don't know. He was very awkward looking in the field.
He was.
But everything was awkward. His batting stance was awkward. He had to throw his hat off while he was running to second base.
Exactly.
He had that big
great.
ass just stuck out all the time. And it's funny that his kid then was a great defensive outfielder. Like one of the most ridiculous catches in baseball history. That when he climbs the wall in Texas and like pulls the ball back, and then he was all steroided up. But
well,
we pretend we don't know that. Don't you think now looking back? So March 27th is when they made the trade. Don't you think that it was because the Phillies were like, "Well, fuck, we don't."
Yeah.
Bob and Gary weren't going to make the team.
We broke it down. Like that was the stigma. It was like the Phillies were dominant. It was like Pete Rose, all those guys. They had such contempt. The Cubs were so bad. It was like, that's not going to hurt us because it's such a lopsided trade even then on paper.
Yeah, I mean it's so bad to not just to trade the guys, but just to give them somebody in your own division. Like you can't beat us with these guys. Who cares?
Right.
Take them. All right, Dallas.
We filled 67% of our starting outfield with that trade. Like, and who'd they get? Like Bill Campbell at the end of the line. So, it'll. I mean,
it was.
But I think that's it.
I think if Dallas would have told you that it was the Porfi Altamirano trade.
Yes, right. The throw in.
That's what. But
you kind of brought that up, and that's my theory is that the reason it looks so lopsided is that nobody like they actually thought that stigma was so embedded that it didn't matter what they did, which obviously turned out not to be true. So, but yeah, I was like, yeah, we need maybe we can't afford these guys these years, but they were like coming off a pennant too, you know. It was like they weren't fucking around. That was a Phillies team that was basically at the end of a 10-year run, and they were still had a few. They're you know, on the other hand, they just figured let's clear a path for Von Hayes. This is our guy. So maybe that was it. Need to get rid of the distractions.
So in 84, Sarge leads the National League in walks, 103, and on base average.
And game-winning RBIs, which was not a stat after 84.
And sacrifice flies with 10.
Yeah, he was the best.
That's because Dernier was outstanding on third base whenever he batted.
Yeah, daily double.
Struggled in 85, only played 97. Everybody was hurt. Hit 235. Yep. Had a decent year in 86 when he was 35.
Yep.
He could always get on base. He had a career of 364 on base percentage, which was funny because when he was the Cub hitting coach, he seemed to have no interest in emphasizing the guys should take pitches and walk.
Just like Joe Morgan.
Yeah, another guy who had no idea why he was good.
Yeah. So I'm inclined to slot Matthews ahead of Hank Sauer here and behind Billy and Riggs Stevenson. At least for now, let him. I don't know if anyone ranks higher than him other than those two.
Yeah, I can see
at this point.
But Gary is gone in 86, traded to the Mariners because the Cubs are loaded in left field without him. Loaded. Listen to the three guys who got the most games played the year after he left. Jerry Mumphrey, who had ridiculous stats for the Cubs that year.
He did. We unearthed that.
The immortal and thankfully on the mend, Brian Dayette, my favorite of that season.
He was one of mine.
And Rafael Palmeiro.
Yeah.
Jerry Mumphrey in 1987, at the tail end of his career.
Yeah.
He played 118 games for the Cubs, hit 333 with a 400 on base and a 534 slug, 13 homers and 44 RBIs and 309 at bats. The year before with the Cubs, he played 111 games, hit 304.
Yeah.
They pressed their luck. They brought him back in 88 and he hit 136. Yeah. I had to wave him.
I always liked Mumphrey. He seemed a little bit redundant. I didn't realize he was that old at the time as I was getting. And I also, I guess, didn't appreciate how productive he was. But I did like him. But it felt redundant because it was like we already have Dernier, but he really wasn't a center fielder, obviously. But like that was what he was when he was in his 20s. He wasn't that old.
Do you remember who he traded him for?
Billy Hatcher, right?
Billy Hatcher.
Yeah, that's right. So who would have been a center fielder? That came up when we discussed center fielders. But I feel like Mumphrey, he was never the everyday center fielder in those years, huh? But I do feel like he played a fair share of center. Didn't have a chance. Dave Martinez taking over center. So now
let's see. With the Cubs, he played in 86. Yeah, he played 65 games in center and only 39 in left. But then in 87, he only played one game in center. He played 78 left and 6 in right.
I think it's just one of those things that in my head, knowing him because he was a National League player, I saw him as a center fielder, but he was obviously downshifting when he came to the Cubs. He really wasn't redundant. He was freaking 10 years older than Bob Dernier. What am I thinking about? And besides, we've got Dave Martinez playing center soon.
So in 1988, the Cubs changed left fielders again, and they had an all-star.
Oh, that's okay. Legit.
Rafael Palmeiro.
Legit. Left field all-star. Probably not too many. Hank Sauer was probably an all-star as a left fielder for the Cubs. Billy obviously would have been multiple times. Don't know if Riggs made an all-star game. He kind of began halfway through his career, so that's right. That was the 88 Cubs team that had a whole slew of all-stars like the 77 Cubs did.
6 of them, I think. 5, at least 5.
Yeah.
I think 6.
Yeah, maybe a 6.
Sean Dunston was an all-star that year. So
sure was. 88-90.
Let's see. Palmeiro struck out 34 times in 580 at-bats.
Wow, Buckner-esque.
Mark Grace-esque.
Yeah.
Boy,
wow.
good thing you
That's
wouldn't
really
want to have those two guys in the same lineup for a decade.
Let's not.
Gray struck out 43 times that year.
So Palmeiro's even better. You
Yeah.
said 30 something? Yeah.
Yeah, and Raphael had more at bats than Mark, because that was the year Mark.
Wow.
Right? 88.
Raphael had better bat control. Okay. Yeah, I think Buckner generally hovered around the 20s for those. No, it's just ridiculous. He's almost a cut above, but
Yeah, let's see the Cubs. Rafael Palmeiro, Dave Martinez, and Andre Dawson were that outfield day. That was pretty good.
damn good outfield.
I wonder why Rafael and Dave didn't stick around.
Look at that. 2/3 of our outfield right there.
Dave was gone that year. That was during that season. He got traded for the great Mitch
That's
Webster.
why it's a 0 WAR. Yeah, that's weird because it was like in June too. It wasn't like before the halfway point. Whatever Flotsam, well, I can hover over it.
Might have been July.
Whatever Flotsam they had there.
75 games for the Cubs that year.
Yeah, Webster, Darren Jackson.
July 14th.
Oh, it's July. Yeah, so my memory's playing tricks on me.
Webster. Ugh.
So now
at that point, the only thing we knew Mitch for was he was the guy that Dawson threw out. The ball got stuck under the sidewall, and Mitch is tooling around first, going to third, and Andre goes down, picks it up, and guns him out by about 20 feet.
Yes,
Mitch, the ball is waiting for him, and Mitch is like, where the fuck did that ball come from?
Yeah.
Jim Fry couldn't get enough of that. Ooh, we need that guy.
And he's probably happy to become teammates with him.
Yeah, can't throw me out now.
Yeah, the Cubs kind of go through a run now where there's not a whole lot of stability in left field, which
No, but it's funny. They have in 87, Mumphrey has a 2.5 WAR out there. In 88, Palmeiro 2.3. This is not great, but it's not bad. In 1989, Dwight Smith had a 2.3.
Good enough for a runner-up.
And none of them was the primary left fielder the next season.
Yeah, good point.
Dwight really, I think, was though in 91.
Yeah,
Doug DeCenzo edged him with a few extra games.
90 was a weird. Yeah, it was a little bit of maybe a hangover season or whatever.
Yeah, but 89, Dwight Smith, his rookie year with the Cubs, he finished second in Rookie of the Year voting to his running mate, Jerome Walton.
That was
had his best year of his big league career, not just his Cub career. 324 with a 382 on base and a 493 slug, 9 homers and 52 RBIs and 343 at bats, 19 doubles, 6 triples. He was a terrible outfielder.
Yeah, part of his problem is that he couldn't even play left.
No,
and yet even he hung around as late as 93. I remember him getting quite a few starts in center in 93, which was like the thing. It's just one of those things too that smooth hitter, smooth athlete, super fast. But it just shows that being fast doesn't make you like a great defensive player. It doesn't make you a great base runner either. He was a circus on the bases too. I loved Dwight Smith because he was just such a damn good left-handed hitter. But that's all he could do.
He was all tools.
He could hit and he could run fast, but the running the fast didn't always help him either.
And he could sing.
Absolutely, he had the pipes. Belting out the Star Spangled Banner at 118 right before first pitch.
Do we know I'm sure the A's renamed it, right? But at Hohokam, I always thought this was a kind of a joke and kind of a nod. So Dwight Patterson Field at Hohokam was like the primary thing. Well, the side field they named Dwight Smith Field, and I always thought it was kind of a ha ha ha, but it was really named for Dwight.
Why?
I think just because one was Dwight Patterson Field, they thought it was funny to name the other one Dwight Smith Field.
Oh, okay.
But I wonder if the sign's still there. The A's are so cheap, they probably didn't take it down. It's probably still named after him.
Probably. Exactly. I like that. I'm going to check that out.
All right. So we have to keep changing left fielders. And 90, DeCenzo gets the most games out there. His WAR was terrible, but at least his pitching propped it up.
Yep.
Good old Doug. Still, how many innings? 9? 5. 5 scoreless innings for the Cubs over 2 years. Was that the year that the
No, that was 1990 was the Rob Dibble. That was 1990. Yeah, same game. Of course, one of those things where like a night, like 6 different iconic things happened. Like when Steve McMichael sings "Take Me Up to the Ball Game" and Chip Carey couldn't make a call. Same thing here, where in the same game in which Rob Dibble threw a ball at Doug DeCenzo, Andre Dawson got thrown out for chucking a whole bunch of bats onto the field.
Now, Doug also known for, so he's known really for 3 things, I think.
I'm sorry, that's 1991. That's 1991. Okay. My mistake.
He's known for 3 things as a Cub. He was a handy little emergency relief pitcher. Rob
Correct.
Dibble threw at his legs.
Yes.
And a hunk of the ceiling at Exposition Stadium in Montreal almost fell on his head. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a joke they gave him the next day. He showed up and he had a football helmet in his locker, and he was shagging flies with his football helmet on. Yeah. 1991, Cubs go get huge free agent signing by Jim Frey.
And he was an all-star. He was the one that wasn't a bust. Dave Smith and Danny Jackson were busts.
Yep. Former American League MVP from just a few years before, 4 years before.
I think in '87, he and the Cubs had both 1987 MVPs in the outfield.
George Bell. Yeah. George, in his 1 year with the Cubs,
last great year of his career,
was an all-star. 25 homers, 86 RBIs. He had 285. He didn't really seem to want to be there all that bad. And then he went to the White Sox. He really didn't want to seem to be there either.
Well, yeah.
But it turned out okay for the Cubs
sure
because they traded George Bell for Sammy Sosa. Although the Ricketts, I'm sure, will have that expunged from the official record at some point. You'll never
know. Bell actually had he did not have a good season for the site. He played every day in 92 as they continued their ascension. But 93 is when he bottomed out, when they really could have used him, especially with the playoffs. So they had to stick Bo Jackson's broken hip out as the DH in the playoffs because Bell was just having pitching a fit. But he wasn't producing either.
Now he did. In 92, he led the American League in a stat category, though. Did you see that?
I see that. Yeah.
That's a huge number. He grounded into 29 double plays. Now, I'm going to look this up. Albert Pujols is the all-time leader. I guarantee you he never came close.
Look it up.
To hitting into 29 double plays.
It can fit your narrative that he wasn't interested. Now, typically a guy that maybe hits into 20 double plays, probably a guy that might not be fast. Oh, really?
Albert hit into 27, 29, 28, 26, 24, 21. But Albert was in his 40s when he got to the Cardinals. So he was an old man running to first. He was a great hitter who just couldn't run because he was so old.
Bell was at the end
of
the line,
young man.
Still 32. Yeah.
Now, always distracted by how his gas station in the Dominican was doing.
Right.
Still one of the great things. But a huge, for people who don't know, they probably didn't listen to the 91 podcast. Part of Jim Frey's motivation to trade him, or was it Jim Frey? Or was he gone by then?
No, it was Frey.
It was still Frey.
It was Hines. No.
It was Larry Hines. Yeah, it was Hines. So that's right. Hines traded for Sosa. I knew that.
Yeah, Frey gets launched because those signings didn't work, and Tree was like, "That's it." And so they bring in Larry Hines and his puckered asshole. And it was the following spring training. So this absolutely tracks because it was just like the Dernier Matthews trade. It happened at the end of spring training.
And George reported late to spring training and said it was because he was busy running his gas station that he owned. Yeah. And Larry's like, all right, fuck off. We got to get rid of this guy. And so he traded him for his pet with the the White Sox. The White Sox, Ron Schuler, I guarantee you, was so happy to dump Sammy Sosa on anybody. And he had a sucker right across town, his old
boss. Because he knew what a hard
Sammy ends up hitting 600 home runs.
Yeah, right. He knew how much
Hines loved it. Part of the reason Hines got fired was because of the trade he made to get Sammy. He traded Harold Baines to the Rangers, and Jerry was always pissed off at him.
Absolutely alienated Uncle Jerry for sure.
Then we get to a true enigma in Cub history. The guy who played the next 3 years in left field, Derek May, 6'4", 210 pounds, son of a former major leaguer, Dave May, who played 5 years for the Cubs. Mostly, he played every day in 3 of those.
Yeah.
He had 28 home runs.
Yeah. Few players, I feel, for whom there existed such a disconnect by how he looked. He looked like such a ball player, man. And you're right. He should have been genetically. His father was a ball player. And then the actual performance, he could not hit for power. He was not a great athlete. Like, he was not he was a left fielder, so he wasn't even and like by now Dwight Smith was gone. Like, all right, well, maybe Derek he was a poor man's, he wasn't even a poor man's Dwight Smith. Just a light soft player. Let's call it a soft player. I know that's sometimes a pretty harsh criticism, but
he had a beautiful swing. Like, if you just watched him take batting practice, you thought he's the greatest player in the world. The guy that got compared to him later, a Cub who got compared to Derek, and it was not a positive, was a guy who you can see on marquee very often, Ryan Sweeney. Same thing. This guy who was a big, tall, strong left fielder.
Yeah.
Anderson, Sweeney could play center too. Sweeney was a much better athlete. But as a hitter, they got compared because in batting practice, they looked like the greatest player ever. And when the game started, neither one of them could hit for any power at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the Cubs pissed away 3 years on Derek.
Kids, if you ever see the name Derek May, that's pretty. I don't think anyone can probably do it justice more. That's pretty much it.
So how about this? He was the starting left fielder for 3 seasons. His total WAR in those 3 seasons was 1.2. Total. Over 3 years. That's not the average. That's the total.
Aggregate. Yeah.
Oof. So they go out and they swing a deal to get a left fielder to replace him. And they got future.
Well, no. This was we discovered this in great detail. That left fielder for the next 2 years was acquired mid-season the year before, along with our starting catcher for the next few years for a broken down Rick Wilkins.
Yeah. But so they hand left field over to Luis, and he's an immediate improvement.
Yeah.
He had, in 2 years, pre-steroid, Luis Gonzalez, 4.7 WAR in 2 seasons in left field for the Cubs.
And he was a nice. I was worried because he was actually, even before then, having been with the Astros, he was a Cub killer before, like, 1993, 4 and 5. Like, who is this motherfucker? And then, like, now we got him, he's going to suck. And he was serviceable. Perfectly adequate left fielder, Luis Gonzalez with the Cubs.
Yeah, you're right. So he got the most games in left in 95, but he only played 77 games for the Cubs because he came over in the trade. And then he was only a full-time starter for the Cubs for 1 year. In 96, he had 271 with 354 on base and a 443 slug. And then he was off to Houston.
Back to Houston, and then back to the Balco lab, and then a whole different player emerged.
Yeah, they just didn't re-sign him after the 96 season. They just let him go.
He was because he wasn't on the juice, and he was a fine player. Right. Yeah,
and they replaced him with a guy who I guess they figured could do the exact same thing, and that was Doug Glanville.
Yes, who I want to say might be the only thing of any value that Jim Fry ever drafted with the Cubs.
I hope he was a first-round draft pick. That's not a good first-round draft pick, even though he played in the big leagues for 9 years. That's not a good 12th pick in the draft.
In Jim Fry's last draft, he picked Doug Glanville, who, I like Dougie. He batted 300 in 1997.
I wonder if the guy picked right after him would have been a better pick. So Doug Glanville, 12th pick in the 91 draft.
Derek Jeter or somebody?
Manny Ramirez.
Oof.
And then Cliff Floyd.
Who we knew about. Like, I was at Northern, and I had guys on my dorm floor that went to Thornwood, and they're like, "Oh, it's Cliff Floyd."
Yeah, guys picked after him: Manny Ramirez, Cliff Floyd, Sean Green, Eduardo Perez.
My goodness! So there's another one. That Mr. Magoo motherfucker drafted Doug Glanville 2 slots ahead. Did you say it before Cliff Floyd?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So there are a lot of busts in this draft. Brian Taylor, Mike Kelly, Dave McCarty, Dimitri Young was okay. John Burke was all right. Joe Vitiello, Joey Hamilton, which,
Joey Hamilton, yeah. The other great thing is
right-hander. Mark Smith, Tyler Green, then Sean, then the run here. Sean Estes, Doug Glanville, Manny Ramirez, Cliff Floyd, Ty Hill, whoever
All
that
right.
is. Sean
And
Reed.
the other thing is Doug Landville, as we know, he's a college boy, and not just a college boy, but Ivy League.
10.
But yeah, he was almost 21 years old by the time he got drafted too. I just like that would never happen today as a 12th pick, unless Doug Landville was like just bashing the shit out of Ivy League pitching that year, and had to take him. 21-year-old Ivy Leaguer. I like Doug too.
Yep. He got traded for
Mickey Morandini.
the dandy little glove
That's a
man.
good trade.
Mickey Morandini.
That's right.
And then he would come back, and he had a triple
almost
in the NLCS. Him and Tom
a
Goodwin.
ground ball triple.
2 pinch hit triples in the same game.
Yeah. It could have been a hero. He was this close to having a great second act, but not going to feel sorry for him. Doug's got a nice life.
So Doug is shipped off for the dandy little glove man. So to open up left field, because the Cubs need power in left.
Sure do.
And so they signed a free agent, Henry Rodriguez. Henry. Who played 3 years for the Cubs and had 1 good year.
98. And then just
99.
like he was like a China doll. Oh, he wasn't even good in 98?
He was okay, but 99 was his good year.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think of
that's
98.
right. No, 98 was right. His WAR was higher in 99. But yeah, 98 was the year he had 31.
Yeah.
He had 26
I
in
didn't
99. Actually,
that.
I didn't realize he had back-to-back good years.
I didn't either. I just thought 98 was his only good year. He had a good year.
Well, actually, 99 was
everybody.
He had more homers in 98. He had a really good year in 99. 98, 31 homers, 85 RBIs. He had 251 with a 530 slug. But 99, he had 26 homers, 87 RBIs. He had 304 with a 381 on base and a 544 slug. Like a real player.
Yeah, for sure. That was his best career in baseball, 99, actually.
And fans would throw candy bars at him.
We sure did. He had some of his best years with the Cubs. I call him a China doll. I just remember he could, I'd get frustrated that he'd dive for a ball and then he'd get hurt.
Yeah.
He couldn't stay.
This is weird. Okay, so they did trade for him. They get Miguel Batista.
Yeah, I remember that. I would have guessed. I would have said, Miguel.
And
Batista,
then he played the 98 season, and they let him. He became a free agent, but then the Cubs re-signed him.
Okay, right.
And then at the trade deadline in 2000, they traded him to the Marlins for Dave Noyce and the great Ross Glode.
Yeah.
Cub and White Sox.
That's right. Just like Wayne Nordhagen, who's already been mentioned tonight.
Here are some similarities, the similarity scores on Baseball Reference to Henry Rodriguez. Number 1 is Teoscar Hernandez, who's currently a Dodger. Number 2, Carlos Quentin, former White Sox. Number 3, Tony Conigliaro. Did Henry ever get hit in the face with a pitch? But number 4 might interest Cub fans. The number 4 most similar hitter to Henry Rodriguez, Cody Bellinger.
And then look who number 7 is. Our guy Jorge.
Oh yeah, Jorge. Current new giant, Jorge Soler. Look at that. Is it bad that by age, it was his 30th year, it was Bo with 1 hip? Is that a bad sign? All right. So then, Henry for 3 years. Then in 2001, the guy who played the most games in left. Who would have started the season out there, though?
Yeah, but you got to have somebody you got to have somebody to back up Ron DL because he ain't going to make it through the whole season. I will say.
Well, I'm looking at this list of left fields. Yeah, so Rondell White in 2001 played the most games for the Cubs.
There were a lot of trades. I'm looking at that list too.
Yeah,
I know them all, even Chad Myers.
Michael Tucker, Delano DeShields, Matt Stairs, 22 games left. Brant Brown.
Yeah. Stairs was
Gary
signed
Matthews
to play
Jr.,
first base.
Todd Dunwoody, Corey Patterson, Chad Myers. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Yeah, they got Stairs to play first that year, and then they picked up McGriff at the deadline, and it took forever to get here. Stairs ended up going to the outfield. Mentioned Dwight Smith's beautiful, sweet left-handed swing. What I'll say about Rondell White, he couldn't stay healthy. Good season for the Cubs, and he was one of the best right-handed hitters. I just liked watching him hit. He was just when he was healthy, he was just a damn good hitter. Just couldn't stay healthy. So.
Yep. It was a 293 hitter for the Expos in his first 8 seasons. He hit 300 3 times. His batting average for the Cubs in 2 years was 310, but it's only 114 games in 2 years. They got him at the deadline in 2000, right?
Oh.
And then he was only healthy enough to play 19 games. He might have been on the injury list when they got him. It was one of those deals. Okay. They got him for Scott Downs.
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah, poor Rondell. Yeah. It's woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yep, fine.
So then they went out and they got the guy that they should have signed like 5 years before. They got Moises Alou. And Moises' first year did not go well.
Because he showed up out of shape. And it took me a long time. I loved Moises Alou 03, 04, but 02 I was so mad. He showed up and he pulled his calf standing in the outfield in batting practice.
Yeah, opening day. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, why is Roosevelt Brown in the opening day lineup?
Yeah, it's a great sign when that would have been Chip, right? Yeah.
No, Chip was still the broadcaster. Yes.
Yeah. Chip comes on and announces that Moises has been scratched because he pulled his
So basically, that just put a black cloud over the season. Don Baylor was canned halfway through, but Alou bounced back. I thought he was great in 03. He only has a 1.1 WAR. I don't care. I think he was great all the way through. And then he was statistically fantastic in 04.
Yeah. I feel like in 03, and I can look this up, I feel like he was very good down the stretch.
Could be.
Like his overall numbers would look lesser than the impact he had, but I'm going to be proven wrong here.
Yeah, you might be, but
because his first half was better than his second half. 294, 360, 481. Second half, 257, 353, 431.
He redeemed himself for his horrible performance, helping them get off the horrible start the year before. But yeah, I'm balanced. I'm cool with Moises. I like him. He's good. He's a little strange, but
well, he also hit 500 in the series win over the Braves and 310 in the NLCS.
He was a clutch player. He was
huge.
He came up huge for the Marlins in '97 in that World Series too. He had a couple big 3-run homers, I think, in that World Series.
But yeah, he was very good in 04. He kept trying to bail them out.
I know.
39 homers, 106 RBIs. No, that was his last good season. He had pretty well, I noticed. 2 years with the Giants, he played pretty well. He was playing for his dad.
That's right.
And then he finished up with the Mets. He was really good, but in just part-time duty in 07. 340.
Here's a fun fact by the Hero Baines law. Moises Alou is a Hall of Famer. He's got a 1.1 higher WAR than Harold, 39.9. So, if only, because then we could add into the list of Monty Irvin and Ralph Kiner, Hall of Fame left fielders.
Yeah.
Billy Williams.
2005, not a great year for left fielders for the Cubs. Todd Hollandsworth played the most games out there. His WAR was negative 0.9. Other left fielders for the Cubs, this is a great year for Todd Hollandsworth, Matt Merton, Jason DuBois, Jerry Harrison Jr., Matt Lawton.
Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
Jose Macias, Jody Garrett, and Ben Grieve. Lawton, Garrett, and Grieve all showed up for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Actually, Garrett was there for 3 minutes.
Was it Lawton? Yeah, was it they got Lawton and flipped him for Garrett, or they got Garrett for Lawton?
Yeah, they traded for Garrett. Traded him we'll look this up. And then like June, then at the deadline, then they got Lawton at the deadline, right? But then they fell out. They got so bad so fast that it was a waiver trade to the Yankees. He goes to the Yankees and he flunks the steroid test and gets suspended.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lawton, Merton. Yeah. It's not a good time. It's the sort of post 03 hangover still. And now you just hate seeing everybody. And they're not horrible, but they're certainly at least mediocre. And
Matt Merton would be the primary left fielder in 06. Angel Pagan, Freddie Bynum, Phil Nevin, John Mabry, Jerry Harrison Jr., Michael Restovich, one game. Great. And it
Merton led the team in hitting that year, too, I think, for what it's worth. But, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt, but
297? Probably.
I bet you did. I'll say about
Michael Barrett hit 307. Derek Lee at 286.
And he had enough at bats. Okay.
Oh, yeah,
fine.
You're right, though. Juan Pierre only hit 5 points less, 292. Jack
I'm
Jones,
surprised he finished
285.
that high.
Those 06, or I look at the wrong year.
They were,
06.
yeah, they were all bunched up around 280, 290.
That was
How
a
about
bad
that?
team.
Yeah,
66 and
it was
96.
that was the bottom fella. That was the Brzezinski. That was all right. Dusty. It was so bad that was when they actually got rid of McPhail. They actually Tribune was actually compelled to fucking finally get rid of McPhail at the end of that season. So, but of course they were clearing the runway to sell the team.
And
at that
Sam
point.
Zell slides in, and it's a blank check for new president John McDonough and
That's
Jim
right.
Henry. And they go out and they spend it.
I don't think McDonough signed Soriano. McDonough didn't come around for another year. McDonough was still at the Hawks in 07, 08, I know. So just point of fact. But yes.
I thought that was always the thing, was that he went ahead and did it.
He gave the money to Henry. Hired McDonough was another sort of a brassy move, but like he just gave the money to Henry to spend, and then McDonough came on board the following year.
Well, no, McDonough had been there. He'd been the marketing dude.
I'm sorry, he left. McDonough. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have it backwards. Thank God. What the hell's wrong with me? McDonough left for the Hawks in 07, 08. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, McDonough was there.
My bad.
McDonough left after the 07 season.
McDonough
that was the only year he was president, right? Was 07?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm all screwed up. McDonough got promoted. That Carnival Barker finally actually ascended all the way to the presidency for 1 year when McPhail was forced out. They made McDonough the president, so he starts from like selling tickets, and then he moves his way up marketing, and then does a lot of stuff. He got the brass ring. I mean, that was great for him. But yeah, that was the 1 year. You're right. Sam bought the team. There was McDonough. Here's a shitload of money. Perfect for McDonough, because then he got out and got another nice deal. So, yeah. Absolutely right. McDonough and Henry bring in Soriano, who I guess sad to say, I don't know if we have to bump Sarge Matthews out of the number 3 spot, but I think now we
need to look at. See, I always liked Alfonso, but
me too.
So he shows up in 07. He's supposed to be the solution in center field. He's
fielder.
the long. Yeah. Finally, we've got our center fielder. He had been moved from second base to left field. Frank Robinson had to he refused to play in a spring training game. He refused to go to left.
For Frank Robinson.
Yes, because he was a second baseman. He didn't want to move. The next night, he finally played. He played in one in Orlando, against the Braves, and my dad and I were there. We just happened to be there. We saw Alfonso Soriano standing in the left field. But the Cubs are like, well, he's an athlete, and new manager Lou Piniella is like, yeah, I can teach him how to play center field. That'll be great. And they put him in center field, and he runs around for a little while, and then he's bad, and he hurts himself. And when he comes back, he's a left fielder. And he's a left fielder for the next, 7 seasons? He was there a lot longer than I remembered.
It was a big contract.
07 to 13.
Controversy.
Because he didn't get traded until the end of his final year, right, to the Yankees?
I think that's
correct.
They
never shipped him. They couldn't eat any of it. His final season.
Yankees. Yeah, because they were playoff contenders the first 2 seasons, and then they hovered in 09, and then the bottom starts falling out, and the team's absolutely. They were kind of there were too many years on the deal still to move them.
I mean, his numbers, in 07, he had 33 homers, 70 RBIs, 19 stolen bases.
And his September was blazing.
Yeah, he went crazy. And he's the reason they made the playoffs. He literally carried them.
And that's why they signed him. That was his best year,
look at
too.
his September, because it's ridiculous. I think he had 13 home runs in September. He led off a whole shitload of games with him.
Yeah, I am looking at it now, and I was in a rush to bump Sarge out of the way, but Jesus, just looking at the WAR though, man, those last 4 years.
All right, so this was his September in 2007. In 28 games, he hit 14 home runs, 14 homers, 27 RBIs, 320, 354, 754, and then in 2 playoffs with the Cubs, he got 1 hit, right?
I think so.
I believe Chuck would be more than happy to tell us. 3 hits.
I know. They only played 6 games. Yeah.
Hit 143 against the Diamondbacks and 071 against the Dodgers.
because of his 7 years, because of his first 2 excellent years, because of his yeoman's effort getting him to the playoffs, I'm going to at least put him in a tie with Sarge, because Sarge got him to the playoffs in '84. It's not going to matter because I see a name up above that I'm probably going to put ahead of both of them.
Remember this? I mean, I guess the 2012 season is like nobody remembers it.
Oh, no. I know. I blocked out.
He hit 32 homers and drove in 108 runs for the Cubs.
That's incredible. And yet he still only had a .9 WAR.
Yeah.
Was he just terrible in the outfield by the end? Is that what's dragging his WAR down?
It has to be, because so in his 7 seasons with the Cubs, he had a total WAR of 8.3, and what was the first year?
4.3.
Yeah, more than half of it came in the first year.
Yeah, and 6.3 after 2.
Yeah, he was never terrible. His numbers for the Cubs, in 7 years, he had 181 homers, 526 RBIs. He hit 264. He never got on base, 317. Slugged 495. He was a cool guy. His teammates loved him.
Yep.
Yeah, in 2013, he played really well for the Yankees, right? Yeah, he did. 58 games with the Yankees, 17 homers and 50 RBIs. He did 17 homers with 51 RBIs for the Cubs in 93 games.
Oh.
And what did they get for him? Anything? They got Corey Black. I remember that, relief pitcher.
I could have told. I was waiting to drop Corey Black's name. I kept waiting for Corey Black to make it.
Yeah.
First he didn't.
Yeah, so his WARs by year, 4.3, 2.0, minus 1.6, 0.8, 0. 2011, his WAR was 0.
Yeah.
1.9 and 12, despite that huge year.
Yeah, the offensive production.
0.9 and 13. But 2014, they hand over left field to one of my favorite Cubs of all time, the great Chris Coghlan.
Next.
Ugh. I mean, so Coghlan did 2 cool things in his career, only one of which with the Cubs. With the Cubs, he did the thing where he was calling timeout and the ump didn't give it to him and he got a base hit and drove in a run. That was legitimately cool. And then jumping over Yachty with the Blue Jays, I think, right?
Yes.
And scoring.
He was fine.
Yeah.
It's a fun trivia question that he was actually in the starting lineup for Game 1 of the 2016 World Series. Isn't it?
They had to get him back. So
yeah,
after 2015, they traded him for Aaron Brooks, not the Aaron Brooks who played quarterback for the Saints. And then Schwarber gets hurt, and Soler is bad, and they decided they needed a left-handed bat, and they brought him back. Here I was like so happy he was gone. Like someday they'll do this to me with Ian Happ. They'll trade him and then they'll get him back. And I'm like, oh fuck. And then he's there to jump around and ruin all the World Series pictures because he gets right in the middle of all of them and he's jumping up and down.
Right.
Remember he injured the Pirates shortstop.
Yes, the Asian, the dude
who then turned out to be a real scumbag, and he had a bunch of DUIs and he killed somebody in a car accident. So all of a sudden, he didn't feel bad. He didn't feel bad anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not all in the negative ledger.
And he saved the World Series in 2016. We owe it all to Chris Coghlan because David Ross calls all fastballs. And Rajay Davis hits a home run, ties the game. Ross walks in the 9th. Coghlan
gets a pitch. Coghlan, yes.
Gets Ross out of the game. Miguel Montero comes in.
Yes, and then
Aroldis is able to get through the 9th. So Chris Coghlan, that's the one thing he did.
I call it damning with faint praise.
So in 2016, they're handing over left field to our large adult son, Kyle Schwarber. It lasts 2 games.
Yep.
He blows his knee out. But it's like that's no problem. We got Jorge Soler. Well, we need to give him at bats anyway.
Well, and it is funny that Soler does wind up being the first regular, technically according to this, the first left fielder on a Cubs World Series winning team since Jimmy Sheckard in 108 years, as it turns out. But Soler I always feel Jorge Soler is a little bit of a forgotten Cub because what he did in the playoffs in 2015, I think sometimes gets overlooked, and I don't know why, because he absolutely just shoved it up the Cardinals' high. He set a major league mark by reaching base. I think his first he blew that record out of the water. His first 9 postseason at bats, he reached base. And he continued to like hit homers against the Mets till he kind of cooled off and had to wear a baklava, and then he just couldn't get going. And the thing is, like they're upgrading from him. They brought in Hayward, so it was like it's still because Soler get hurt, and he just wasn't like the all around ball player that we ideally hope. But still, like his role in the ascension of the team is just like I will never think anything bad about Jorge, and I don't even think of him as left field.
In right field,
he
threw out Tony Cruz. Yeah. The Cardinals were about to take the lead in Game 4.
Yes,
and he threw Cruz out at home plate. That was a long, perfect throw. It was a great throw. And then Jorge was World Series MVP for the Braves.
Yes, I know. It's like Soler and Schwarber have had the best careers post World Series of all those guys.
Now, here's the craziest thing about left field in 2016. Jorge is listed here on the Baseball Reference page we're looking at as playing the most games, but he didn't. The reason he's listed first is the guy who did actually also played the most games at third base. Chris Bryant played in 60 games in left field in 2016.
2016.
Now, his WAR was 7.3 that year, so that's pretty good. That, of course, would be the highest WAR by any Cub left fielder ever. But that doesn't count because it's also the highest WAR by any third baseman ever. But here were the guys who played left field for the 2016 Cubs: Chris Bryant, Jorge Soler, Matt Caesar, Ben Zobrist, Chris Coghlan, Wilson Contreras, Albert Almora, Travis Wood. 3 games in left field.
Yeah,
Travis Wood.
But like so many of those names bring back warm memories.
Javi
And
Baez.
Earlier in left field,
Javi Baez played as many games in left field as Kyle Schwarber, 2. Ryan Kalish, Kyle Schwarber, David Patton. Relief pitcher David Patton and Pedro Strop. 3 pitchers played left field for the Cubs.
I'm still mad for
2016.
A lot of good names though there. Like comparing it to some earlier flats, Sam, that you were reading, like in like the names like Scott Thompson and Jerry Morales.
You could make a pretty decent lineup out of the guys the Cubs played left field.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's a good way to almost. I know we're getting to the end here. That's a good way to almost kind of wrap it up. That the World Series team actually just had a parade of great players playing left field.
2017, they were finally able to hand the job over to the guy they tried to give it to in 2016, and Kyle Schwarber will be the primary left fielder the next 4 seasons, even though one of those in 2017 he had to spend a little time in Iowa.
Yes.
And it was a roller coaster in left. His WARs 0.1, 2.1, 2.3, 0.1 in the 4 years.
Yeah, not great, Bob. Still one of my favorites. Probably my favorite. I don't know. It's hard to pick one. But at first, I'm like, I'm putting that guy ahead of Rick Stevenson. I can't do that. Stevenson at least played in 2 World Series. Schwarber in the World Series is a hero, but not as a left fielder. I'm still going to find a way for him in the top 5. But yeah, all those left field innings are basically all post-World Series. They're fun, though. He did a lot of good shit. So I mean, I've got I can't remember any of the 20th century guys, but pretty much I'm just going here with Billy Williams and Rick Stevenson. Got to keep Sarge in there. You got to keep Soriano. I'm putting Schwarber in there. Not sure if anyone else deserves to make that top 5 cut, but Schwarber, man.
Well, our last 2 then.
Yeah, I don't care what this motherfucker does the next 4. He's not making my top 5.
2021, the primary left fielder was Jock Peterson. His WAR was
sorry, I didn't mean to skip Jack.
Minus 0.2.
Fuck that guy.
He got traded, and then Ian Happ took over left field. And Ian Happ, the last 2 years.
I see Ian's putting up some solid WAR there.
His WAR is 4.4 and 3.0. And so before we get to ranking, I did this. I pulled out.
Good.
Here's a list of all of the guys who had WARs in a season for the Cubs of better than 4 in left field.
Okay.
Jimmy Ryan, Jimmy Slagle, Jimmy Sheckard, course.
The 3 Jimmies.
Riggs Stevenson did it 3 times.
Yep.
Augie Galan. Is that what we said Augie's name?
Yeah. Augie Galan,
He had a 6 in 1935.
All right, for a
Hank
pennant winner.
Sauer, Richie Ashburn.
Yeah.
Billy Williams 6 times.
Wow.
The only guys who did it more than once are Riggs and Billy.
Okay.
Dave Kingman, Moises Alou, Alfonso Soriano, and Ian Happ in 2022.
Fonzie only once.
That's 19 four-war seasons in 125 years. That's not good.
Okay.
Now here's the guys who got 3 war seasons. You think that should be a really big list, right? It's fewer. These are guys you only had to get up to 3.9.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And 3 of them are Abner Dalrymple before 1886. We probably shouldn't even count him. George Van Halteren in 1889.
Guys, you don't know.
So now we got another Jimmy Schlegel. He did it twice.
Right. He
over 3.
Jump corners.
Jimmy Shecker did it twice. So he's got 3 of better than 3.
Yep.
Riggs, add 2 more Riggs in, so now he's got 5.
He's up to 5. Yep.
Chuck Klein in 34. Augie. Sauer.
All right, so Augie's got 2.
So those guys
now.
all have 2. Moose Morin in 58.
All right.
Billy adds another to the 6, so he's got 7 now.
7.
And then Henry Rodriguez and Happ. That's it. Since 1980, the Cubs have only had 5 left field 3-war seasons. 43 years, 5 left fielders put up a 3-war in left field. It's
not including the ones that also have a 4, but then even if you add those
that's
2
including
together,
them, because here's the whole list.
5 unique players.
Right, but this is the whole thing, and none of them ever did it more than once. Oh, Happ did it twice. Happ's the only one to do it more than once. It's Henry Rodriguez, Moises Alou, Alfonso Soriano, and Happ twice. That's it. Since Kingman did it in 79, it's just those 5.
Right, to finish between 3 and 4.
So since Billy, they've only had 6 ever. And Billy left in 1973.
But those are 5 that have finished between a 3 and a 4.
Those are 3 or greater.
Yeah.
That includes the 4s. Yeah. That's it. It's bad.
Yeah. Even by left field standards.
Left field is supposed to be it's supposed to be the easiest place to put offense. Because they don't really need to play defense, and the Cubs can't do it. I mean, they literally won a World Series without an everyday left fielder. They just didn't have one.
That's right.
They just played the whole team out there, and it worked.
But that's also the point of left field. The Phillies won their first World Series in history with Greg Luzinski in left field. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, right? You just find a guy who can hit, and you don't worry about it.
Right.
The Cubs have tried that. That doesn't work. And then they've tried guys who could play it, and it didn't work. Sure. All right. So now, let's see. What do we do? We did 5 center fielders?
I was trying to whittle it down to something. Yeah, we did 5. And from memory, I believe it was Jimmy Ryan, Hack Wilson, Andy Pafko, Bob Dernier, and Dexter Fowler. I think we left Monday off, but if not, he would have been 6. I'm pretty sure those were the center fielders. I don't know. I mean, there's nobody from the prior 20th century that makes a case like Jimmy Ryan did for center in my book. But I think definitely Riggs and Billy. That's pretty just, Billy didn't play in any World Series. That wasn't his fault. But those are probably the top 2. And then it's a little bit of a Donnybrook. So I nominated Matthews. Maybe I was a little overzealous. He had a 3.2 WAR, but you're saying the guys that did it twice. But yeah, maybe Matthews was just being nostalgic.
Oh yeah, did I miss Sarge? Maybe I did. I missed
him. Yeah, 3.2 WAR.
All right, so then it's 6. It's not 5. It's 6. Much better now.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I guess your candidates, right, are Billy, Riggs, Hank Sauer.
I guess Sauer should be there. 5.6.
Moises.
Yeah.
Soriano.
Okay. If we're doing it by WAR, I guess. All right.
And the great Ian Happ.
and Ian's
I'd
right
rather have
outside the top
Coughlin.
5.
I'd put Coughlin before I'd go with Happ.
Yeah,
I'd put
well,
George Bell before I go with Happ. 1 year of mediocrity. Or Jerry Mumphrey.
Okay, I'm putting Sarge. Yeah, I'm putting
So
Sarge
mine would be I think be Billy, Riggs, Brian Dayette, Chris Bryant,
I like the Brian angle.
Javi Baez.
Yeah. All right. I'll go Billy Riggs, not the guy that lost to Billie Jean King. Was that his name Billy Riggs?
No, what is it?
Bobby Riggs. Bobby Riggs. All right, no, I'm going with Billy Riggs. I'm trying to fucking obscure left field that we haven't somehow mentioned tonight because we basically combed through. Ryan Friel played left.
Yeah. Kevin Roberson.
Kevin Roberson, my guy.
Robin Jennings.
Yeah.
There were all those. Scott Bullitt. I'm sure Scott Bullitt played left.
I guarantee he did. No, I think, the question is, who are the next 3 after those first 2? And I'm just I have to put Soriano on there. That September was huge, and I saw it. And for the same reason, I'm going to say because of Sarge's 84, that's the same reason we let Fowler be in the top 5 for center fielders, even though he was only here for 2 years. So I'm putting Soriano. It's a postseason thing, folks. Soriano, Schwarber, and Matthews. So sorry, Lou. Sorry, all you guys that put up high war. I just don't have as many fond memories of you. And I realize Schwarber's a little bit, because all my memories of Schwarber, I think he didn't really do as a left fielder, but I don't care. He was the everyday guy for 4 years. And I love him.
So it's funny. Before we did this, I was looking, and Jordan Bastian from Cubs.com in 2020 was asked to do the top 5 left fielders of all time. And I looked at this and I laughed. I'm like, ha. I can't believe this is what he came up with.
Right now, this was actually a thing already?
And now he basically has the exact same list we do.
Oh, no.
It was Billy Williams, number 1.
God damn it. That's fine. Yep.
Rick Stevenson, number 2.
Yep. I think that's pretty indisputable.
Sorry, number 3. That's why I laughed. I'm like, God, just got it. So there's no way Soriano's 3rd. But, all
right.
I would put Hank ahead. I would put Sauer ahead of Soriano.
Yeah.
He's got Jimmy Sheckard as the 5th.
Wow. Did his homework.
His honorable mentions include Mark Zagunas. No, it doesn't. He did A to Z. The list runs from Alu to Zagunas. He's got Augie, Moises, Kingman, Gary Matthews, Henry Rodriguez, and Schwarber in his special mentions.
Yeah, I think if I have to put Hank Sauer back in, and I don't want to leave Schwarber off, maybe I'll just.
It's our list. We can do whatever we want.
I know. But come on, this is etched in stone. I'll just leave it as a top 6. Hank Sauer deserves to be back on there. And Moises just wasn't here long enough, and I'm still pissed about that 0-2 season.
Yeah, but Moises had a Happ because Happ's only been the primary left fielder for 2
years. Yeah, all right.
Moises
so if I got to branch it out to 10, right? I want to keep Happ out of the top 10. So I'm gonna put a loose 7. And you know what? Because he was technically the World Series in the 2016 team. God damn it, Jorge Soler gets there, and what the fuck, Jose Cardinal. There, I kept Ian Happ out of the top 10. That was my goal. Oh, Henry, he's the 10th.
I gotta tell you that his 2 good seasons with the Cubs were really good.
I know. I didn't realize it. Better than I thought. That 99 was a blank. I only think of 98 with Henry. Oh, Henry.
Now, I don't know what year it was. It was probably 99, where the Cubs, for multiple games, trotted out an outfield of Henry Rodriguez in left, Sammy in center, and Glenn Allen Hill in right.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Did they catch a single fly ball?
We didn't mention Glenn Allen Hill. I wanted just to close. I mentioned Gary Matthews, busting his ass in Game 5 of the playoffs, running and making a catch and tumbling and looking not graceful at all, but phew, at least you got Glenn Allen in that 1-0 98 game that Kevin Tapani was trying to hold on to till Javier Lopez. I guarantee in that game, you'd hold your breath with Glenn Allen too, just like with Sarge. We love Glenn Allen. But there were a couple balls, high, deep flies that drifted towards the foul line. He ran forever. So I just wanted to get that on the record that there's a little bit of a Sarge Matthews, Glenn Allen comp there. They're both on playoff teams, and both gave tremendous effort and still didn't drop the ball. So,
Glenn Allen, the first time he was a Cub,
we hadn't mentioned Glenn Allen until now, which is a shame.
In 93, played 18 games in left. 94, he played 31. He played 44 in center that year.
He was the opening day
then
left
his
fielder
second,
in
he came
94.
back in 98.
Yes, he did.
And that was 28 games in left in 98, which was of most because he didn't arrive till late. He was July.
Late June. Well, late June, I think.
But he only played 34 games at all, and 28 of them were in left. Then 99, he played 37 games in left and 26 in right. That's when they were playing that ridiculous.
And he hit the ball. He hit the ball on the roof, and he hit the ball on the roof in 2000.
Yeah.
So that's some serious left field. That building out on Waveland.
Yeah, Glenn Allen Glenn Allen was cool.
He really was, man. He's like, we ever do an episode of like the coolest Cubs. One of the funniest things I remember is Corey Patterson acting about butthurt, pretend, because he said that Glenn Allen Hill nicknamed him Carlton.
The Fresh Prince.
Yes. I just love that. I love everything about Glenn Allen.
They don't have his nickname on here. Spider-Man.
Spiders? What was his? Yeah.
Spider-Man. One of the great stories of all time.
Yeah, we should do just the 10 coolest Cubs. I think Glenn Allen will definitely be in that team photo. So.
All right. Well, it was fun. 2 hours.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
2 hours on Cub left fielders.
I feel much better about all the other positions now, or maybe I shouldn't. But...
Well, we got center and left out of the way. So.
Yeah. And center was uniquely abhorrent for the Cubs. Left is a tough position. Like we said, you're going to have some flawed Sam in general because it's, by definition, it's that one position where you hide a guy. But, it'll be interesting to see how these other ones shake out for sure.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Andy.
Many of us have herpes.
This is rough, but it's also finished.
It's fitting. It's got to be done with one of the best games of all time. Just unbelievable. Got to congratulate the Dolan family.